Hey everyone! If you're like me, those perimenopause symptoms are driving you crazy. Well, I've got a little help for you. All you need to do is go to my midlifewithcourage.com website, and a little box is going to pop up that's going to ask you if you'd like to get my free ebook called Balancing Your Hormones. It's a short little guide with tips that you can use throughout the day, super easy, to help you balance out those hormones through the things that you do. So check it out, midlifewithcourage.com. Now let's get back to the show. You are listening to Midlife with Courage. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button to make sure you don't miss an episode. Now let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Midlife with Courage. I am Kim Benoit, your host, and I'm so happy to have you all here. I'm also very happy to have my guest here with me today. Her name is Mikkel Woodruff. Welcome to the podcast, Mikkel.
I'm so honored to be here, Kim. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you. Tell the listeners who you are and where you are in the world, what you're doing.
Oh my God, a loaded question. Who are we? So I am 42, proud 42-year-old
Yay!
living in Central Florida. And I live here with my husband. We are childless and petless by choice. I'm obsessed with dachshunds. And we just can't have one because we travel too much right now. So I've had a whirlwind of careers and career paths and jobs and everything. So I love your show for, partially that
Oh,
reason.
thank you.
Once you reach, midlife, so to speak, even though, I'd like to live to 150.
Yeah, don't we
And
all?
right, so some people are like, I'm good at 80.
Yeah.
I've been a photographer for many years. I have historically done a lot of weddings, which I love, but I'm sort of transitioning into boutique family photography. But
Mm.
on top of that, I also am a travel writer and content creator. So my husband and I do that together and have for many years. So I've got my
Nice.
hands in a few things.
You sure do. And we're going to talk about all that. First of all, tell us about a time in your life when you felt courageous or you showed courage.
Oh gosh, there have been a lot of times. I don't like confrontation or difficult decisions, but I don't shy away from them if anybody's
Mhm.
into zodiac and Aries. So I am definitely a fire sign.
Mhm.
And I would say I'm trying to go backwards from my life now. Let's say like I said, there's been a few. Okay, let's start with the earliest that I can recall, and then we'll go the latest. So the
Okay.
earliest, and I'm sure this is going to take people back to high school and their prom. I had a great high school experience, but I decided not to go to my prom because I was dating somebody at the time who his prom was the same day and
Mm.
it was at a better venue. So I decided to go to his prom instead. Now, that sounds very trivial and flippant, but actually it wasn't. At the
Mm.
time, I had great friends in high school and
Yeah.
I kind of, didn't want FOMO. I've never once regretted the decision.
Mhm.
So that was kind of like my, maybe start uphill for the path of more resistance, maybe. I don't know. And then recently, I would say my husband and I decided in December, well, we decided before this, but starting in December 2022, we were going to pack everything we owned and put it in storage and travel the world for a year, which ended up being 14 months.
Wow.
Yes. So we did that, and it was obviously an incredible experience. And now we own a home and we have a lot of stuff in this home that was in storage. So it was definitely a singular time in our lives that was hard
Oh,
to do, but
yeah.
doable and life
Oh,
changing.
I love that. I love both things. First of all, that was very courageous as a senior in high school to say,
Yeah,
"Yep, I'm not going to my prom. I'm going to his prom." That's a big deal.
it was at
So
the time. Thank
yeah,
you.
for sure. Yeah. And then, oh my gosh, to take a year off and travel, that would be like a dream for me to do
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, so we're going to talk about all these things, but you started out not being into travel, as much as you are now. So tell us about that. Tell us about your story.
So a career obviously ties people down. They have
Mm.
limited vacation days. I grew up with a love of travel and a desire to travel, but I didn't get the opportunity to travel as much. Let's say most people travel with their families, of course, when they're younger,
Sure.
and they're not the decision makers in the family, they're underage. And my mother always grew up traveling the world in the 50s and 60s. And her mother, my grandmother, always instilled a love and importance of traveling the world to understand different cultures. And of course, now travel's easier than ever. But back then, the Pan Am days and dressing up to go on an airplane,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Some of those pictures I see from back then, like smoking on the plane
Oh,
and
yes.
all these fancy outfits. And yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my God, heels all day in an
Yeah.
airport. I can't imagine. So I always knew that traveling was important to do, but my parents always owned a retail store, so it was really hard for them to travel and get away from it
Um,
because anybody that owns their own business, definitely a physical space, knows that it's really hard to be able to go away and trust people and, leave it
mhm.
in their hands. And this
Sure.
was before, of course, like text messaging and the internet and all that stuff. So we didn't travel as much, but when we did, of course, I always have fond memories of it and love it. Fast forward to high school, I had done a 4-week study in Israel, a leadership study. I went on a few family trips. I know you love
Wow.
Disney, so
Yeah.
I went to Disney with my friend from high school. Her grandmother lived down here. I always wanted grandparents that lived in Florida, never had them. And a reason to go, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I quickly learned that I should take vacation days when I had a job.
Mm.
I worked at a company that had quote unquote unlimited vacation days, which I do think is
Mm.
kind of BS, if I can say that, because I think a lot of the time when companies have unlimited vacation days, they make you feel guilty for taking those days. And
Mm.
when you leave the company, it's like a figment of your imagination, the vacation days, so they don't have to pay you out because it never existed. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
So some
Um,
companies will be like, "Oh, I have 4 vacation days that I'll get paid out for
mhm.
because it's part of your salary, let's say." Well, where I worked at Rent the Runway, we never had actual vacation days and nobody really ever took them. But I felt it was important to take them within reason, so I did. And for my 30th birthday, I took a trip to Japan and
Mm.
I knew I was building my photography business back then and working towards quitting. So I got back from Japan and I remember it was like around July 4th and a holiday. And I remember saying to my brother-in-law, it seems wrong to give notice to leave the company right after a holiday. And he said, who cares? Just do it. Give him 2 weeks notice. So I did. And then I've been working for myself ever since and
Nice.
generally have not looked back. There have been trying times with the pandemic and
Sure.
kind of a weird financial time now, I would say. And as of what is it, September 2025? But travel remains important. Even during the pandemic, exploring our own backyard and driving and doing road trips was really important. When I met my husband, our first date question, like that was a great conversation, was where's your dream vacations and where do you want to travel to and where do you want to
Mm.
go? So I vetted from the first moment that he was into travel and had a passport and could travel and wanted to. So it's always really been an integral part of my adult life for sure, and kind of more so dreaming as a child with a peppering, sprinkling of trips here and there.
Ladies, you know I believe midlife is not the end of anything. It's the beginning of everything. That's why I created the Courage and Confidence Hour, a monthly space just for us to connect, share, and shine. Here's what you can expect during this 3-month program. Each month, we'll gather on Zoom for an uplifting, heart centered hour that helps you quiet self doubt, find your voice, and build the kind of confidence that ripples into every area of your life. You'll leave each session feeling lighter, braver, and more energized to take on your next chapter. And the best part? You don't have to do it alone. You'll be surrounded by women who truly get it, who lift you up and remind you that you're not behind, you're right on time. We're kicking things off this October with a special beta launch at an introductory price, and I'd love for you to be a part of this founding circle. If you're ready to feel more connected, courageous, and confident in your everyday life, this is your invitation. Just click the link in the show notes to sign up and join us. Yeah, I love that that was your priority. One of your priorities. I'm sure it wasn't the main one, but it's important. I'm on the same wavelength where traveling is important, and don't worry, obviously it's expensive, but the memories you make are worth so much. So much more than
Yeah,
money. So,
100%.
yeah. So tell me about your photography business. You said you do weddings mainly, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So I started, I picked up a DSLR camera back in 2008 because I was very into scrapbooking
Uh,
and digital scrapbooking was becoming more popular and everybody was like posting these incredible photos in these groups for scrapbooking, the online forums. And I decided I'm going to get a DSLR camera and take better photos. Again, before iPhones really came into the world,
yeah.
which I recall being somewhat around 2008, actually. I remember having an argument with an ex over him wanting to buy the new iPhone that had debuted. So this
Yeah.
was pre-iPhone or right around that time. And back then, of course, it wasn't taking pictures that could substitute a real camera.
Yeah.
And I started learning how to use the camera and then fast forward to abridge this story. I always loved weddings. My favorite movie as a kid was Father of the Bride with Steve Martin.
Uh,
And I knew I really wanted to go into weddings. And I had explored a career in wedding planning in around 2001, actually. I interned for the largest party planner in New York City back then. And I decided I did not want to be a party planner. So when I got a digital camera, I started, just using it as much as I could and learning it. And eventually started second shooting for weddings when I was working in the theme park world in Central Florida, full circle. I live here now again, but I did take a break from living here. And I eventually started photographing my own weddings. And at the time, it coincided to, I worked at Universal Creative, which is kind of like Walt Disney Imagineering. Most people know that name. If they're really into theme parks, they for sure know
mhm.
Universal Creative, especially with all the Epic Universe documentaries and everything going on NBC right now. But I worked at Universal Creative, and the head of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter project, I was on that team, said, Mikkel, you have a camera. I want you to take photos every week of the progress of the updates because I have to update the head of the resorts and parks. So you need to put it into a deck for me. And I was like, great, another reason to walk around and use my camera. So that was
Mm.
happening at the same time. So, longer story short, I eventually left that job when the park opened, moved to New York. I was working for Rent the Runway. They hired me partially because I knew how to photograph things. So I photographed and retouched all the jewelry and models and stuff there.
Mhm.
And I was also working, I would say, a second job full time for my own photography business and built my photography business when I lived and worked in New York City. And eventually, like I said, back to Japan,
Wow.
went to Japan, came back, quit my job, and had enough weddings to sustain myself, for years. And I've done family photography consistently over the years. I don't advertise that I do it as much, but life changes and priorities change. And
Mhm.
now I've done the weddings and I love them and I still take them if it's a right fit, but I do more families these days.
Mhm. That's fun. I love photography myself. I'm sure I'm not as good as you are at it, especially with people, but I love to go out in the woods and take pictures, the sun coming through the trees and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I
So,
love that. One of my
yeah.
favorite things is how the light filters through leaves, actually.
Yes, yes.
Yes, we're
And
on
if
the
you,
same page.
yay, yeah, if you can catch
Yay.
it just right, it's amazing.
So
And
gorgeous.
I can just do it on my phone. Even, I have
Oh,
a
yeah.
digital camera, but, I'll use that too sometimes. But yeah, I love just capturing those moments, those little things. So love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So got off on a little tangent there, but that's okay. So tell me, I want to go back to the creativity part of this, but for right now, I want to talk about the decision to take a year off and travel. How did that come about?
I have had two friends that did something similar.
Hmm.
And One was in a way better financial situation than us because she had sold a company and done really well.
Oh,
So I thought, well, money's not everything. We can still make it happen.
sure, sure.
And another friend was not in that situation, and she decided to sort of be a digital nomad. And she was more so in a situation that we were in. She rented an apartment. She could, give up the lease. She had an online business. And at this point, my husband and I both were working for ourselves and had online businesses. And as a photographer, sure, you have to be somewhere to photograph an event, but I would say that's 1% of the job, and 99% of it is on a computer, communicating
Uh,
with the clients, replying to inquiries, updating your website, and editing photos on a computer.
sure.
So we talked about if we wanted to re-sign our lease for a ninth year in Raleigh, North Carolina, where we met. Absolutely adore Raleigh. I love it. I love
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But we said we cannot re-sign this lease for a ninth year. That's ridiculous. Just throwing money away on rent.
Yeah.
We put in notice with the building and said we will not be re-signing our lease. So that was part of the first step, I would say. It was a dream and we had talked about it. Hopefully, this is encouraging anybody listening that wants to do the same thing, which is why I'm
Yeah.
just telling these details.
Yeah.
And we kind of charted out where we would be and when and plan that in advance. We travel a lot, especially for work, but I will
Mm-hmm.
say, as two people without pets and kids, we're afforded the luxury, which was by design, of being able
Mm-hmm.
to book a trip 4 weeks out, let's say, or 2 weeks
Nice.
out.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say the one time that we had to really plan in advance was this year because that year of travel, which was back in 2022, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to rent, let's say, an Airbnb for 4 weeks, you really need to look far out because if somebody books a week or a weekend that you
Oh,
want, right? So, like, let's say you want April 1st all the way through the end of April. I'm like, 30 days has
30 days.
September.
Yeah.
Okay. April 30th. And somebody books April 17th to 18th. Well, then you can't book the month.
Oh, sure, sure.
So we had to look in advance and we had some key destinations we really wanted to aim to go to and stay for as long as we could.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal was to not have to get a visa. So we would do 90 days in the Schengen agreement countries in Europe because that's the max you can go
Uh-huh.
within, I think, a 6 month period or a year. Don't quote me on that. And then, do the same in Japan and kind of do it that way.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so we worked out some of our travel partnerships for our travel writing and content creation during that year, but we put all our stuff in storage. It was so stressful having to be out of this apartment we'd lived in for almost 9 years or, 8 to 9
Wow.
years.
I bet you had a lot of
And
stuff in there.
not only did we have a lot of stuff, we rented a 10 by 10 storage unit. And thank God the guy was so nice who was running the storage unit and was really helpful and really friendly because that day that we moved out of the apartment, I looked at him and I said, Jason, I think we need another storage unit. And he was like, all right, well, here's what's available. And Raleigh is in the middle of 5 colleges. So a lot of the college kids rent the smaller units because over the summer and over the winter break, they're just storing their
Oh,
stuff if they're going to move. So
yeah.
thankfully, a little smaller unit was available. And we did. We had to rent a second unit
Oh
because
my gosh.
we didn't have space in the big one, which just it made it easier because then we only access like our winter coats were in that smaller unit. So when we
Sure.
went, to somewhere that we would go get them or whatever. I think we went back to that storage unit 2 or 3 times that year. So not
Wow.
a lot, but we did go back and we love Raleigh. So it was great to kind of check in with the city and our
Yeah.
friends there. So yeah, we traveled for a year. We left and headed right to a sailing cruise in Costa Rica. And we ended the year actually living with my parents for a couple of weeks in South
Oh,
Florida. So that was also helpful. If you have a friend or family member that you can put your permanent address or get a PO box, that's
yeah.
really helpful to get mail and kind of the administrative tasks of your life.
Yeah. 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 A place to land, basically, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. weren't you scared?
Scared in terms of what?
Just, I think I would be, I don't know. I mean, it sounds exciting and wonderful, but then my mind starts thinking about all the logistics and what if somebody got sick at home that you had to, and you
Hmm.
were, on the other side of the world, or were you worried about anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few things. We made sure we had travel insurance for the year. So
Mm-hmm.
Allianz offers an annual plan, and we signed up for that, of course. We
Hmm.
also, I should say, because we worked for ourselves and didn't live physically somewhere, we didn't have health insurance, which is scary.
Yeah.
So, my husband Dan even called like the government office for the health insurance. And he described what we were doing to her. And she was like, well, surely there's got to be something on the market for this. And nothing. Like they followed up with each other and nothing. So, at the very least, the Allianz plan allowed us to have medical coverage. I think it's 90 miles from your home, which was our parents' house that year.
Oh,
So,
okay.
as long as we were 90 miles from Boynton Beach, Florida, if something happened, they would, theoretically cover it depending on what it was, which is all in the fine print.
Yeah, of course.
So, that was covered there. Both of our parents are in their 70s. So, yes, it was definitely concerning if something happened, but we always thought it's just a flight away. If we have to
Mm,
drop everything, we would be covered under our travel insurance to do that. Luckily, it didn't happen, but yes, it was definitely on our minds.
yeah.
And then in terms of fear with logistics, I will admit that one of the reasons we stopped traveling and it was not sustainable over time
Hmm.
was because we found two things to be really difficult. One, getting into a routine and
Mm,
feeling like once we got into the swing of things somewhere, if we were living there for 4 weeks, it was time to go again.
uh,
So it wasn't all tourism every day. We would work, let's say, for half the day and then do a tourism thing later in the day, even if that was just getting dinner to feel like, we were part of the community.
hmm.
One of the things I most look forward to living in Europe was going to just a food market or vegetable market and
Yeah,
buying things to cook in our, home, temporary home, because
yeah,
when you're a tourist, you're not really doing that. Even if you're at an Airbnb for 3 nights, you're not really going to go to the market and buy things to cook, right? Like there's
right,
not
right.
olive oil and there's not some spices you need.
Yeah.
So that was something I was looking forward to. But as soon as we felt like we were in the swing of things, we would have to leave. So it
Mm,
was really hard to get into a routine. And people
hmm.
think routines are mundane, but you realize they really
Hmm.
serve a purpose,
Yeah,
not just for kids. Kids need structure, people say, and of course, but adults actually do too.
yeah, for sure.
And the other thing was, I did feel like a lot of my time was consumed by being our own travel agent. So it was the logistics, it was
Oh,
figuring out where we were when, because we were homeless if we weren't, coordinating the hotels and planes, trains, and automobiles and all that stuff. So
yeah.
I guess the fear was maybe there, but it's kind of like that saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a
One
time?
bite at a time. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So were you mainly responsible for all the travel arrangements?
Always. Yes.
Yeah.
That is our
Okay.
relationship. But in a nice way, my husband's
Yeah.
like, look, whatever you want to plan, great. I'm along for the ride. If I think that he's going to have an opinion about something, of course I ask him because I like
Right.
hearing what he thinks. But
Yeah.
yes, always, 99.9% of the time, I am the travel advisor in
I love it.
our relationship.
Yeah, I asked that because when my husband and I do a trip, it's usually we used to take a trip on every 5 year anniversary. And the last time we went, I was done. So our next trip, I said, I can't be the only person making these decisions. It's a lot of work and I'm not having fun,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
because I'm worried, okay, but this and that and whatever. So if anyone out there's listening and they're in that same situation and they don't enjoy it, then talk to your partner, whoever you're traveling with.
Yes, yes. And I will say, travel advisors are amazing.
Mhm.
Traveling for a whole year is different, right? It's not like this
Yeah.
one-off trip for a week or two that you can consult a travel advisor. I'm sure you can, but the
Yeah.
cost benefit.
Yeah.
And travel advisors, most of them are free to use for X
Hmm.
amount of services. So I definitely encourage it, and I think they're great. But I completely understand it stressing people out because it is
Yeah.
stressful and it is time consuming. And I think the person that isn't the one doing the planning doesn't realize how time consuming it is.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So when you were traveling, you wrote, you're a travel writer as well. So is that kind of
Yeah.
part of it? So tell us
Yes.
about what you were doing with that during that
Yeah.
time
So
too.
we have two travel websites. One is called Sometimes Home because we're sometimes home.
I love that.
Thank you. And then one is called Sometimes Sailing, which is sailing on a cruise. We
Uh-huh.
like an alliteration, and it obviously came as a spinoff from Sometimes Home.
Sure.
So we write for our own website. So I guess you could consider us bloggers, vloggers kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we also, well, now we started a podcast. So we're also podcasters, which is how you and I met,
Yes, we did.
which I love, and write some freelance articles too. So I've
Mhm.
written for The Points Guy, Thrillist, Cruise Critic, things here and there. So some partnerships came from that. Some media trips come from that. We paid for the majority of our travel that year
Mhm.
because while doing it in exchange for a media trip is great, you also have deliverables and you owe people things, and the trip is not
Mhm.
yours. You're kind of somewhat beholden to what they want to do with your schedule and whatnot.
Sure.
So yeah, but that was great and helped us financially sustain things and,
Yeah.
connections and discover really great things. So yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to talk about cruising too, but before we do, I noticed when I do my research about my guest, you mentioned when you're doing anything creative, having these creative journeys and taking pictures, you have that one moment, like we said before, but you mentioned something about going beneath the surface of things that you're experiencing. I love that idea because I think too often we just skim over the top of things that we're experiencing. Can we talk about that a little bit?
sure, yeah. I am a naturally curious person, which I know you are too. It's
Hmm.
very evident. And I always want to find a connection or go deeper with why. I've always felt like if I can understand why something is happening, or maybe if there's a controversy, with a friend in your life, let's say, or, a parent or sibling, I always just want to know why. And I think that helps us gain a deeper understanding of things. So it could be as simple as science, like we were saying, like why is the light showing that way through the leaves and what's the
Mm.
structure of that? Or, yeah, I think that's really where it comes from.
Hmm. Hmm. Have you ever, in your traveling, especially in Europe, I've only been to Europe once. That was this year. I want to talk about that too, but things are so different in different countries, of
Hmm.
course. And that's a perfect opportunity to think, well, why?
Yes.
What's
Why?
happening there?
And it
Yeah.
opens Pandora's box, but in such a nice way.
Yeah.
Oh, because of the history. Oh, because at the time artists were doing this, and that's why this artist was breaking the molds. Because my husband is really amazing with art. He majored in art and he just knows so much about it. So I love going to art museums with him because it's so much more interesting. So,
Mm.
when we go to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam and you see
Mm.
Rembrandt's paintings and you're like, oh, that just looks like an amazing oil painting. It's like, well, nobody was painting people like that back then. And everybody's portrait was stoic, and he was painting expressions and real moments, like a candid photo. But there
Mm.
weren't photos then. So
Yeah.
so in context like that. And Europe, I love Europe too.
Mm.
I really love Europe. It's my favorite place to go.
Uh,
And I agree with you. It's like the why really opens up just bridging the gap between cultures, whether it's the food or even the food. It's like
mm.
outside of Paris, we like Paris, it's fine. We're very lucky to have been there,
Mm.
but we love outside of Paris. We love the countryside of France. And even the why of, well, why did these people eat beans and this kind of meat? And well, it's because they were peasants and that's the food, so the
Uh,
history of that. My
yeah.
husband loves French food, and before we started going there, he loved French food before he'd ever been to France, and he was like, oh, all of the coq au vin and beef bourguignon and then these cannelli bean whatever. And we get there and he's like, oh, now I remember that French food is actually just peasant food, but elevated in modern times.
So it's just the perception.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I shared this with you before that we took a Rhine River cruise this past winter, and that was my first trip outside of the US, period. Like I've never been outside of the US. So just we started in Switzerland and ended in Amsterdam, and just I feel like we just those are wonderful cruises for one thing. They take care of you from the minute you get off the plane till you get back to the airport. I love that. But I feel like we just kind of skimmed the surface of each place we
Hmm.
went, you know? So I would love to go back. And Amsterdam, I really did love Amsterdam. And, you know, because we spent the most time walking around there because we walked from the port to the Anne Frank Museum.
Yeah, it's very walkable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 13,000 steps that day. That was our best day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we walked by, you know, a little market with all the food and the different vegetables and how colorful and bright they were
And fresh.
and fresh. Yeah. And
Right.
I want to go back and just live there for a month and,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
part of why we traveled.
yeah, yeah, and then go to the market and get my food for a few days or whatever. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
do you have any hints for people? Maybe you said you like cruising. Let's kind of go back to the cruising. Like
Yeah.
you've done both river and ocean, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done all sorts, river, ocean, ocean small ship, ocean as small as 36 passengers. No, as small
Oh,
as 18 passengers.
wow.
Ocean as big as, 4,000 plus. So, yeah, we've
What's your
even done a
favorite?
barge cruise with four passengers.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
I mean, our favorite is the smaller ones. That's why I haven't said this yet. We mostly focus on small ships. So our
Okay.
podcast is Small Ship Cruise Talk, and our website, Sometimes Sailing, has a lot of small ships. And then when we talk about big ships, we talk about it in the context of what are the small special experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't know this, but big ocean ships have a lot of them have smaller suite classes that have their own pool, their own restaurant. So we talk about that too.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I just love the river cruise. I thought that was amazing.
What cruise line did you go with?
Viking.
Okay, so what was
Yeah.
your ship name? Do you remember?
It was we were supposed to be the Herver, but we ended up doing a different one. Oh my gosh, totally blanking out on it.
It's okay. They're Norse
Yeah.
god names, so they're actually a little difficult to remember sometimes. And if it makes
Yeah.
you feel better, all the ships on one river, let's say, so like all the ships on the Danube are pretty much carbon copies of each other with a different name. So
Yeah.
I've heard of them having to switch ships for one reason or another, but it was probably the same exact,
Oh yeah,
architectural
because I've
plan.
seen
Yeah.
pictures and ads of a different ship and it's the same exact like
Right.
like
You're
I
like,
think
wait,
I
that
was
looks like
yeah.
our ship.
Yeah, it looked like the
Yeah.
same. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it was just an amazing experience. And for people who like my husband and I, we would not do well on our own, like period, in a foreign
Uh-huh.
country because we'd be
Okay.
like, where should we go? What should we do? I think now we could because we've done a little bit, like we were introduced to it, so we probably
Uh-huh.
could.
Yeah.
But I think that small boat or small ship cruising is a really good way to kind of start.
I love that. I just had this light bulb aha moment. So you're saying that being able to go on the river cruise kind of calmed your fear
Yeah.
about your first time going to Europe and a foreign country outside of the US to
Yeah.
have kind of like a comfort blanket of a home base of, I know they speak English, I know they take my credit card, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know I have a safe haven
Yeah.
inside of like this unknown port to port situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You always know you can go back to the ship and how you get there,
Hmm.
but yet you still have the opportunity to go out and explore on your own, but I still have that little backup. But that gave me the confidence. So I'm all about the
Yes.
confidence. So now if we had the opportunity, which we'll make the opportunity someday, just to go out there on our own, go back, I think we totally could do it.
And I will say, if you want to live in Amsterdam for a month, please do. You can completely book an Airbnb. It's really
Yeah.
so much easier than people think. If
Hmm.
God forbid, take out travel insurance for
Oh
you
yeah.
can do one-offs for the trip, right?
Hmm.
And you can come back in case of emergency, God forbid. The 4 weeks flies by.
Hmm.
Amsterdam's an amazing home base to do day trips from. The trains and buses in Amsterdam are incredible.
Hmm.
Everybody speaks English in Amsterdam, in the
Yeah.
Netherlands. Everybody. You might encounter somebody in a much older generation that is limited, but very rare.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I mean, if I may, I would say go in
Sure.
April for the tulips because not
Yes.
only is it tulip season, and that should be on everybody's bucket list, whether you know it or not, to go to
Hmm.
Kuchenhof Gardens. But we went in April of last year because years before we had gone for the tulips and we realized there's a lot more to the tulip celebration than Kuchenhof Gardens. So
Oh.
we stayed and we went to the flower parade that they do every year. And then
Mm.
there's events surrounding the flower parade. You can see all the floats, like Rose Bowl floats almost being built,
Oh,
which was
wow.
incredible. It's like
Yeah.
just the coming together of the community and all of these tulips and tulip bulbs and just watching the process. And it was just absolutely incredible. It really is. Sure, we talked about the logistics and the planning, but that's a whole year. If you
Hmm.
are just booking like one Airbnb for a month and like you make it happen 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? Just make it
Yeah.
happen. There's something like so nice about the slow travel of it.
Hmm.
You would love it. You would
Yeah.
love it.
I know. I know.
That's my
Oh,
encouragement, my midlife
yes.
encouragement.
Yes.
Life
Do
is
it.
short. Do it.
Take the
Quality of
trip.
time left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
YOLO. Yeah. That's one of my
Yeah.
themes too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the women listening who are like, okay, Kim, stop talking about your trip.
I could talk to you about it forever,
I know I can
so
hear the passion and see the passion too. Yeah, I love
truly.
it. I'm totally like I'm not completely happy unless I've got some kind of a trip planned, something
Something
like
to look forward to.
yes. It's important to have if you love to travel, have something coming up, even if it's 6 months out or a year.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
does make you excited, gives you something to work for, to work towards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
motivation.
And if you're worried about money, there's ways.
Absolutely. I mean, people think, travel is expensive and it's not free a lot of the time. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to drive to get somewhere even, but there are definitely ways to make it more affordable. And I think if you are in a bind financially and you're feeling like, you wish you could travel, so to speak,
Hmm.
well, I'm going to challenge you to take a day trip. Go
Yeah.
explore a park you haven't been to, whether it's a local park, state park. Raleigh had these amazing public parks that
Hmm.
you could just make a destination. And there's always these places near where you live that you think, oh, why have I never been here before?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you can always find those. Someday I'm going to, and I probably will do this not someday way out in the future because someday never comes, but just start driving, set up amount of time and see where you end up.
Oh, I like it.
And then come back when you've done what you want to do. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's yeah.
that's a good
So
challenge.
yes, for sure. So what would you tell the women listening if they're wanting to travel? What would be a first step? What would you suggest?
I would suggest think of a place that you've seen on social media that caught your eye, or a place you saw in a commercial or in a TV show that you think, oh, where'd they film that? That was cool. Even if it's not actually where they filmed it, right?
Yeah.
Like if it looks like England, but it was a mansion on Long Island with the Gilded Age is on my mind on HBO. So think of that and then just take the first step, right? So after that, the first step would be I actually had my friend's husband say, I don't even know how to plan a trip to Italy for Michelle's 30th birthday, but I want to take her. This was actually right before the pandemic, so that ended up happening. But I said, oh,
Mm,
that's so interesting. Okay, so like, let me think what I do. I would first pick a place and then I would do two things. I would look up hotels. We are Marriott Bonvoy people, so I would go on
mm,
the Marriott website and see if they have one there. That would be my first step personally.
mhm.
And then I would look up flights. And if my dates are flexible, I would check that box on Google Flights.
Yeah.
I think it's flights.google.com. And I would start there. And then I would say, okay, well, this is maybe within my budget. And if not, I would say, well, when can I go? That's not peak time. It's
Mhm.
not Christmas. It's not Thanksgiving. Also, remember that Thanksgiving is only American. It's Canadian too in another month, I think October. But
Oh, yeah.
so, like, flying to even we flew to Thailand during Christmas. They don't celebrate Christmas. So
Oh, sure.
it wasn't like Christmas rates to get to Thailand.
Mm,
But like if you're going to Hawaii during Christmas, that's peak season.
sure.
maybe money, it's not that important to you. But if it is, and you're listening, and
Yeah.
that's one of your excuses, I would say, there are ways around that. So the first step I would say is pick a place and then look up flights and hotels and kind of interplay between those two.
Yeah. Good idea.
All the sites and everything, like no matter where you go, there's going to be something to see or do. So
Right.
worry about that later.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so much that we could talk about, but why don't you share with the listeners where they can find you? Tell us
Thank
again where
you.
you are.
The easiest things to tell you would be sometimes home.com and sometimes sailing.com. And there's a link to our podcast up there. It's called Small Ship Cruise Talk. It's wherever you listen to podcasts. And we also have a YouTube channel for that, sometimes dash sailing.
Okay.
And on social, we are sometimes home and also sometimes sailing.
Love it. I just love that. Sometimes home.
Yeah. Oh, and if
That's
you're curious about my photography, it's at Mikkel Page, MikkelPaige.
okay, wonderful. I'll put those links in the show notes for you.
Thank
So, yeah, we'll
you.
have all that. You've given us so much information and shared so much, but is there any one last little thing that you want to share with the listeners before we say goodbye?
Yeah, when I was thinking about our conversation today, and if people are at an impasse in their lives or a crossroad or whatever, I got married later in life. I wanted to make sure that I loved myself and my life and wasn't settling for a partner and whatnot. And I think that's helped my husband and I design the lives we want, finding the right partner.
Mhm.
But more than that, in terms of yourself and you, listener, and you, Kim, the universe has always taken care of me. Whether you call it, God or multiple gods or whatever, like to me, it's the universe. And there have been times that I've thought, I don't know what's next. I don't know what my path is. I don't know where we should go, how it's going to affect our lives. But every time I look back, like the universe has always had my back. I'm pretty sure somebody wrote a book and that's the title too. But the universe has looked out for me. So you can call it faith. But I think that feeling of like everything's going to work out, and it has. And that's been a beautiful realization throughout my life to trust in that.
I love that. Wise words.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Mikkel. I hope that we talk to you soon and maybe we'll travel somewhere in the same places.
I would love it. Let's meet in Amsterdam.
Yes, okay. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Midlife with Courage. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you would leave a review, or even better, send a link of this episode to a friend. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.